Hello, it's Stephanie Ricca, editorial director of Hotel News Now, and it's time for a special bonus episode of Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast. I'm here with STR's Isaac Collazo and CoStar Group's Jan Freitag. As you listen to this, it's early January 2025, so Happy New Year, guys.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Who brought the noisemakers and the confetti? Anybody? Oh, there it is. There it is. I was just going to ask, what do you think? Are you feeling hungover from 2024, or do you feel energized and ready to tackle 2025 with joy in your hearts?
Ask me a week from now.
See all of the above.
Well, you know what? It's a new year. Lots to look at, lots to unpack. This is the time of year to be optimistic. So that's what I'm going to point you toward. Isaac, why don't you start us off with, a look at the data points that we might need to pay some special attention to this year.
Yeah.
Last year at this time, we were talking about supply and demand, still even some COVID residue. What data points are top of your mind this year?
I think we start. Well, first of all, let me say that I did bring that's my New Year's resolution to be more optimistic, be more like I used to be. So that's where I'm going in. I'm going to be back to Mr. Optimistic, happy, ready to go. But, again, I'm a little bit tired. Even though it was a long break, I'm still tired from my vacation. So it's time to get back into work mode. I think to answer your question, last year we talked about it being partly cloudy, right? And the sky's clearing. I think is how we kind of paraphrased it. I still think it's cloudy, but with more peaks of sun. I think there's always uncertainty, but right now there's a lot more uncertainty because we don't know what the new administration will do. And because of that, we can't build any of that stuff into our forecast. We can only look at what we have in the time series and the GDP forecast and all the other macroeconomic indicators. So the first thing I'd like you to think about is that we're at this point in time, we still predict that RevPAR will increase by 1.8%. So slightly better than last year, than 24, but not a hell of a lot better, right? It's a little bit better. And again, most of that coming through ADR, with ADR still being below the rate of inflation, because we think it's going to be up by 1.6%. A couple of other things to think about is that supply is ticking up now. We expect it to be at 0.9% growth by the end of the year, but that's still below the long-term average of 1.3%. And by long-term average, I'm looking at the 20 years ending 2019. But here are some things that to be optimistic about. I believe, and I think this will actually happen, room demand sets a new annual record for the industry. So that means more rooms will be sold in 2019, in 2025 than in 2019. Here. So again, that's my optimistic self. And it gets better. There's more. All chain scales except mid-scale and economy and independents will set room demand records this year. It's my prediction. So again, there are things to be. So we are seeing traveling public again, and mid-scale and economy. The only reason they're not seeing demand is specifically economy, because we've had so many closures and things. There's just less of those hotels than there were in the past. And so I think if I remember correctly, economy set its record in terms of rooms sold back in 2000. So it's just a subset of hotels that are available. Again, now the more pessimistic side is occupancy, real ADR, so inflation-adjusted ADR and real RevPAR. They still remain below 2019. So again, we still have some recovery to do in this industry. And I, people are tired of hearing about 2019. God, I hear it all the time. Why the hell do you talk about it? Because we haven't won the race yet. You've got to get to the finish line. We're not at the finish line. So that's, I think, top of mind. That's what I'm thinking about. Those are, again, a little bit of optimism. Again, on the room demand side, people will travel. They'll continue to travel. But we still have, a ways to go before we get back to that finish line.
So if Isaac's New Year's resolution is to be more back to his optimistic, sunny self, Jan, what's yours from a data guru standpoint?
To present more data in person.
Oh, see, that would bring us potentially closer to that finish line of the race that we have been running since 2020.
Because meetings matter. So I agree with Isaac that the number of rooms sold will break records. But I think on the upper end, we're going to continue to see very, very strong, healthy growth from small meetings. And Isaac and I are doing our part because we keep getting invited. And Steph, you keep invited to be moderating panels on not 1,000 people attendees, but 200-300 or so on peak, just meetings that may have not happened in 2017 or 18. So I continue to believe that small meetings will drive part of what Isaac was talking about.
I 100% agree with you.
On the negative side, my question, and we'll continue to look at this Department of Commerce data, is how is international travel going to continue to rebound? And I just don't see it. I think the dollar is going to continue to be very strong, making the United States just very expensive to come to from Europe, from Asia. And so I think the number of international travelers to the US will still be below, there it is, 2019, below the prior peak. So that's something that we're definitely looking at in November, which is the latest data that we have available. We're still 8.8% below 2019 results, international inbound. So I don't see that changing very much.
And I don't disagree with you at all. I do think globally we're going to see more international inbound or more arrivals, if you want to think about it that way, because I've seen the forecast from Tourism Economics, and I do believe that. But the inbound into the U.S., I think, will still be constrained. And again, it doesn't affect many cities. As you will know, it's key gateway cities. But again, it's going to be constrained because for a variety of reasons, the dollar being part of it, but also it could be the rhetoric coming out of the new administration, potentially, people just wanting to go someplace else. To say it in a pleasant way.
But of course, then the inverse can be true as well, right? With the strong U.S. dollar comes continued demand of Americans going abroad. Isaac and I talk about this all the time. We wrote this paper about the $1,000 ADR and hotels that have $1,000 ADR. We're going to continue to see more of those.
Well, I think that's a key point as well. I think, we can almost say ultra luxury hotels will continue to rule. We're seeing more and more of the $1,000 ADR hotels coming up. And then the other thing, there's a lot of predictions out there. So I was reading The Economist yesterday on, thinking of what I was going to buy this year and my luxury goods purchases. But I found out that luxury good purchases are down, but travel isn't. And there's a reason for that, because UBS predicts that the number of millionaires worldwide will increase from 60 million to 86 million by 2027.
Wow.
And then there is
a dime a dozen.
They're a dime a dozen. And according to Forbes, there's 2,800 billionaires worldwide today.
And all those people want to stay somewhere nice because they don't need another jet. They don't need another watch. They don't need another car. But what they need is experiences.
But they're willing to pay. One of the things in this Economist article is reading, Brunello Cucinelli, you know that brand. I know that's what you buy all the time for yourself, Jan. That's
my dog's leash brand.
Yes, exactly. Well, that $6,000 sweater that Jan has from them. Their sales have increased 12% on that sweater year over year. It's $6,000 to start. So again, there's money out there on the luxury side. So I think that just tells you that, again, the ultra luxury will continue to do really well, but that's a very small piece of our industry. So just keep that in mind.
I think that is a really, really interesting segue into transactions, because what we have seen is interest in high-end hotels. And I think luxury hotels will continue to trade at a brisk pace, especially in the United States. If you can park your foreign currency in U.S. assets, in U.S. dollars, you may get the appreciation in the dollar and the appreciation in the asset. And because hotels obviously cash flow every night, you may get that as well. So I'm predicting that the transaction volume in the United States will increase year over year. That's not a high bar given, but I think we will continue to see very, very brisk interest from international buyers of buying trophy assets up and down the East and the West Coast in the United States.
There's a lot of wait and see at the beginning, particularly of a post-election year with an administration change coming in. And some of that wait and see is around interest rate cuts. So, of course, last year in 2024, we saw the first ones. And then the idea, the sentiment at that point at the end of 24 was that 25, there will be more, but they will happen at a slower pace? How will that have an effect on hotel transactions and transaction pace and volume in this year?
At the Alice Conference 2024, everybody said, oh, by NYU, which is in June, we will see, a lot more activity. And then we met at NYU and people said, well, by Alice 2025. So in a couple of days, we will get together at Alice 2025. And I think people are going to say, okay, we are actually now having serious conversations. It may take us to NYU to June for this to materialize, but I think 2025 is really going to be the year of the deal.
And it all depends what happens to the economy. Again, some of what we've heard from the new administration is tariffs and deportations. That will cause inflation. If inflation does rebound to the levels, maybe not to the levels we saw post-pandemic, but rebounds to the 4% and 5%, then you're not going to see those interest rate cuts. Or they're not as likely. I can't say you can't. You never say never. They're not as likely. So it just really depends on what actually materializes. And I think that's where, even at Alice in a few weeks, I don't know if we're going to have that visibility yet. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be more like February or March when we truly have the visibility of what truly is going to happen, because everything takes time in government, as you well know. It just
so maybe, time. Isaac, your cloudy skies, but with more peaks of sun. First month or so might be the cloudy ones with the sun peeking in a little bit down the road, which of course, we are often in this mindset saying, wait and see how the year will play out. But what other big trends are you keeping an eye on?
Yeah, I think the interest rate environment matters, of course, a lot. That said, when I talk to some brokers, they give me the sense this idea of extend and pretend is firmly over. And that banks are saying, look, you either pay or I'll take it back and flip it and I take this off my books. So I think we will see some transactions that are a little bit maybe more forced than the current owner wants it. So, but all of this to say transactions are, I think, the name of the game in 2025. Part of that is refinancing, and the commercial mortgage-backed security market, CMBS market, is wide open and open for business. And at least once a week, I get a new announcement of some bank saying, hey, we're refinancing this portfolio or this what's called SASB, single asset, single borrower, 500 million, 300 million, 600 million. There is appetite out there for people to lend money on hotel properties, just because our track record over the last couple of years has been pretty good. People still think there's more upside potential, or at least the bondholders feel there's not a lot of downside potential, and so they feel that they get their money back. So I think CMBS is wide open, and that will help. And maybe then that means that some owners don't have to sell, but they will find an easy way out and just refinance at a little bit higher interest rate or so.
Mm-hmm. As the world turns.
I agree. And then again, we already kind of touched on this, but I think conference, particularly upper upscale hotels, will lead the industry in the terms of chain scale. They'll have the highest RevPAR growth this year. It's our prediction, because again, meetings, all that will continue to drive that. The need, the desire to be together will continue to drive demand for those hotels. So I think that's a pretty sure bet, unless something radically changes in the economic environment. And the other thing again, we haven't built this into our forecast, but we truly believe that labor costs will rise and the availability of labor will fall. Because again, something's going to happen on the labor side with the changes in immigration. So we know something. Again, we don't know the extent, but something will, and anything that changes the availability of labor causes wages to rise. So that's, again, my prediction.
Yeah, another line item that is probably going to increase is insurance, property insurance. So in May of 2024, NOAA, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, say that 3 times fast, which predicts the hurricane season, said, look, this is going to be a stronger than usual hurricane season. And indeed, it was. Hurricane Beryl was the earliest Category 5 hurricane in June. And then obviously Hurricane Helene made landfall and was the deadliest since Katrina in 2005. That obviously has 2 implications for hoteliers. One is you just got to be prepared. You got to have the generators. You got to know where your staff is. You got to have food, and you will provide shelter to people who are displaced. But I think the other piece for the owners is that I think insurance costs are going to continue to increase 25, 26, 27, and you just have to get ready for that.
It will continue to increase. I 100% agree. I just had dinner with a friend of mine who's in the insurance business and was telling me to give me the whole lowdown on that on the commercial side. And it's, yes, there's no doubt it will increase.
A lot of things on hoteliers' to-do lists for the year. I've got one question for you both before we close up this special episode. And I'd love to hear your outlook on leisure travel. So a lot of the trends that we're looking at with business transient and group have been building up over the last 12 months to where we are now. Leisure, on the other hand, has had an interesting trajectory post-pandemic, coming back so hard. And now, you know, as consumers and the traveling public have more pressures placed on them, along with raising ADRs that as hotels see that they can do for that luxury customer, are not too keen to abandon those ways. So travel for leisure is tough, yet I still see crowded airports with families and multi-generational travelers all year long. So give me a quick prediction for leisure travel.
I think it continues to go up. Maybe the rate of growth slows, but the desire to travel, the desire to be with people, the desire for experiences, either music concerts or, you know, art, whatever it is that, or jet setting, as we said, or set jetting. Yeah, as we said in previous ones, I think that continues to fuel travel. Yes, it's more difficult. You may have to make some decisions and trade-offs in terms of what you do or how much you spend or how you get there. But I don't think it stops. Again, the rate of growth maybe slows a bit, but it continues to be a primary desire, I would say, of most people.
I mean, there are no Eras tour dates this year.
Yeah, I should have mentioned that.
Wipe your tears away, Isaac.
Yes, Steph, I should have mentioned that, one of our predictions is there's going to be markets that are going to be hurting simply because some big ticket items won't be there, like the Olympics, Taylor Swift. And we just got to remember, we'll forget, we'll come back in July. It's like, why is Paris down so much? Oh, yeah, there was an Olympics a year ago. But that's a good prediction because that will happen.
Well, Oasis apparently is on tour. Our colleague Terrence Baker is all over that.
Yep.
A couple of other bands, Metallica is coming back to Nashville, and there are certainly other tours out there, but it's probably not quite at the level of the
probably
Taylor
not.
Swift
He's
tour.
being very diplomatic. We don't think Metallica. I think maybe we can go out on a limb and say Metallica will not achieve. I know as data people, we like to keep things tied to the numbers. So who knows? We might just see that. What are you both most curious about when you think about 2025? What makes you excited when you think about how our industry will look in the year ahead? Isaac, start us off. What really makes you think this will be cool to see how this plays out?
I think the adaptability. There's going to be a lot of change. I really believe there will be some changes, both positive and negative, with the new administration, right? There's a lot of optimism. So how will the, industry adapt? I think that'll be fascinating to watch, including the insurance piece, because I was talking to my insurance friend, and, it just, the whole idea of pooling insurance, things we've never thought about. It's innovation within the industry that, again, points to adaptability, rolling with the changes, whatever you want to call that. I think that's pretty exciting. Innovation to me is always the most fun. And that's why you never say never in this industry because, that's never going to happen. Well, it can, but it's how do you react to that it's always exciting. And then also seeing how good our forecasts are. That's always exciting. Or how not good they are. For those who know they haven't been good.
Maybe we should link last year's to the show notes and we can see how things turn out.
No, that one was, I'll take that one. I'll take the bullet on that one. That was a little premature.
Jan, what are you most excited about?
I mean, a couple of things, right? Number one, the year 2023 was really the summer of Venice and Paris and Rome. And the summer of 2024 was really the Tokyo and Kyoto and the trip to Japan. I'm very curious what the summer of 2025 looks like. Or is it possible that it's not an international destination, Or are people just, coming back to the good old US of A and they're staying, closer to home? So I'm very curious about that. Selfishly, the National International Airport has two more international destinations coming in April, Reykjavik and Dublin. So I'm very curious to see what the pickup of that is. And if British Airways changes their pricing structure flying to London with a little competition, maybe. So that's going to be super interesting to see. And then I think, how do cruises continue to outperform? Are they? Is that going to continue to siphon off some demand on the leisure side? Earlier on, you asked about the leisure customer. I think leisure is interesting. Like, you didn't ask tell me about weekend demand. You said leisure traveler. And clearly, right. The cruise piece is absolutely part of the plethora of options that the American leisure traveler has. And then lastly, just sort of as a side note, this idea of not staying in a hotel, but getting your Hilton points or Bonvoy points or Hyatt points, like staying in a tent or staying in a tiny home or whatever. We saw that at the end of 2024 with a lot of activity. And I'm very curious to see what other brands are going to get rolled up that are not technically hotel brands, which are going to get rolled up into the brand parent companies.
Just remember, can't call it glamping. It is outdoor hospitality. Isaac, old-fashioned, not going to sleep in a tent.
Not sleeping on a tent, but I might glamp if it's a really high-end glamp, but I probably can't afford the high-end glamp.
Well, dare I say bifurcation may continue this year as it did last year as well.
Exactly
the more some things change, the more some stay the same, which I think is going to happen with every turn of the clock and calendar. I think that's a great note to end on. Thank you for joining us for this special episode. And remember to find the latest global hotel industry news on hotelnewsnow.com. Find this podcast wherever you like to listen, and find us on social media. Who knows where that landscape will end up in 2025, right?
And find us at Alice.
Find us in Alice in a few weeks. And always in Nashville. And hey, the door's always open in Cleveland too. Thanks for joining us for this special episode. See you next time.
Thank you.
See you. Thank you.
Want more of the latest news and insights from across the global hotel industry? Head to hotelnewsnow.com for up-to-the-minute breaking news and subscribe to the new Hotel News Now podcast to hear directly from industry leaders. Available on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you find podcasts.
This episode of Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast, was recorded on December 17 by me, Stephanie Ricca. The episode was edited by Rachel Daub. Find all hotel industry news at hotelnewsnow.com. Subscribe to this and all Hotel News Now podcasts wherever you like to listen. Just search for Hotel News Now. Thank you.